And, oh, by the way, what do students want? There's not a lot of data on this, by the way. I did my research, and there's not a lot out there. I think a lot more people ought to be asking this question. I ask it most days in my classes. But this is the answers that come up most often. Let me read them to you. Most students, the number one thing they want is to be taken seriously. They want to be challenged to think. Isn't that interesting? Most teachers would tell you they want just the opposite. That's how they feel about it. I can tell you, I sit in the teacher's lounge and hear it all the time about how stupid students are. They're lazy, they don't want to think. But when asked, without a teacher in the room, that's what students say they want. They want to be respected. They want to be allowed to do things their own way. How insane of them to want to be allowed to do things their way. They want to be rewarded for creativity. They want to color outside the lines a little bit, you know. And they want to be able to discover their own interests. I think that's very interesting. The model for school isn't really designed for that. We like to think that we're exposing to a lot of ideas, but I think we should be helping students explore the possibilities and of what interests them. I was 46 years old before I figured out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I'm doing it right now. It took me that long to figure it out. Wouldn't it have been great if some high school teacher had helped me with that? So, back to AP teachers. What do they want in terms of behavior? Positive outlook, willing to make an effort, confident, respectful, love to learn, organized, intrinsic, motivated, goal-oriented, open-minded, socially aware. That's not very different, is it, than what they're talking about. But business leaders want. This is what students want. This is what teachers want. Everybody wants kind of the same thing. And none of it's testable. So what really is going on here is if we focus on behavior with students, if we focus on those behaviors, Francine was talking about work ethic. She's exactly right. That's a behavior. That's not a skill. That's not testable. That leads to the skills, because once they know they want to do something, they'll acquire the skills they need. And that leads to lasting and real success. And the content? Well, at best, it's a way to get there. So I want to use a quick analogy. I like to teach with analogies, so I want to use an analogy with you today. Let's assume that the outcome we want for our educational system is this beautiful field of golden wheat. We want to have these beautiful golden wheat students ready to learn and go off into the world and change the world and cure cancer and go to Mars and replace our bodies with robotic devices or something. I don't know. And so that's the outcome. So if you're a teacher, you don't start with a field of golden wheat. You start with a pretty hard-scrabble landscape. That's what you get when you come in. And curriculum is like planting the seed. So let's assume that I gave you the best wheat seed. I guess that's what they call it, wheat seed. I was going to give you the best wheat seed there is. University of Iowa had been hybridizing and genetically engineering this stuff. It's the best seed there is in the entire world. So if you ask yourself, if you're going to turn that hard-scrabble land into that beautiful field of wheat, and I was going to give you the seed, and it was the best seed available, what are the other steps to get to that field of wheat? And you might come up with answers like this. You'd have to clear the land. You'd have to plow the field a little bit. You'd have to get some fertilizer in there, make sure there was nutrients for it to grow. Then you could plant the seed. But you wouldn't be done then, right? Because every farmer knows you're not done when you plant the seed. You have to make sure there's water, and there might be some areas that need reseeding. Got to worry about those bugs and the insects and the fungus and all that stuff that can happen. And you got to kill all that stuff, and then you got to add a little time. And if you're lucky, you'll end up with this beautiful field of golden wheat. That's not such a hard analogy to conceive of. I'm going to propose to you that's exactly the analogy we should apply to curriculum and the teaching process in school. Delivering the content is what everybody wants to think about when they teach. That's what they want us, that's what they come and observe us for. That's what they want to test you on as students. They want to see that content delivery. And I'm telling you, that's just the seed. That's just part of the process. You see, nobody wants to learn from somebody they don't trust. Nobody wants to learn from somebody who doesn't understand them. Mr. Dang was talking about that earlier. They want a relationship with the person that's delivering the content. And they want some skills to go with it. You can't learn it without the skills to process it, the note-taking, the work ethic. And then once this content's delivered, that's not enough. I've heard, I shudder to tell you how many teachers I've heard say, well, I give them the material. If they don't want to study it, that's their problem. And I just want to kick them, you know? Because that's like a farmer that throws a bunch of seed out in a barren field and is pissed off that he didn't end up with a field of wheat. Of course not. Students need relevance. They need to know there's value in that content. And then they need to be able to apply it and synthesize it with other pieces of content that they've got. And then maybe you'll end up with students that look like golden fields of wheat. So they want what we need to do is develop a personalized, humanized, nurturing approach to the learning on the district level, on the school level, on the classroom level, on the individual student level. We need to be thinking in those terms, not in terms of testing and curriculum. Because all that content, my friends, I don't know what's going to happen by 2058. But I know one thing, it's going to be in the dustbin of history just like every other content. Alchemy was accepted as fact for 1,000 years. That with the right incantations, with the right processes, that we could turn lead into gold. And people believed it for 1,000 years. And those people weren't dumber than we are. They just had a different model of learning. And it came from some other ways. I won't go into what, but we didn't curriculum our way out of alchemy. We didn't come up with a new testing system that changed alchemy. Somebody came up with an idea called chemistry, and it simply replaced alchemy. And the same thing's going to happen to our curriculum that we're teaching today. That seems so vitally important to administrators, to state legislators, to teachers, to students. It seems so vitally important. But I can assure you it will pass just like alchemy into distant memory. Like some ridiculous thing that these people back in the past used to do. So my proposal is this model, that we concentrate on behaviors, we allow students to develop their own intrinsic motivation, their own, and to acquire the skill sets as they need them, so they can achieve lasting success. And the content knowledge, well, if it's on a computer, why does it need to be in your head? I don't know how many people in this room, but I'll bet you 95% of them have internet access right now. If I want to know who invented chemistry, I could find out in about 10 seconds, 15. And so could you. So could anybody. All that stuff, all that testable, multiple choice stuff is on Google. Why the hell do you need it in your head? Why? Why do we need it? The paradigm has shifted. We've moved into a new world, and we're still teaching like it was the 19th century. Like alchemy still made sense. So I think we need a little cultural literacy, because, and by that I mean a common vocabulary in which we can discuss things. You know, curriculum is not completely worthless. I'm not saying throw it all out. I'm saying put it in perspective. It's just a tool. It's a vehicle to get us to the places we want to go. Students and teachers should be creating knowledge, not consumers of knowledge. And that's the paradigm of testing and curriculum. Skills acquisition, it'll come when you need it. There's a guy by the name, I wrote his name down, I can never remember his name. It's Sugata Mitra. He's an Indian computer scientist, and he started putting computers, they're called hole in the walls, just computers available to kids, no instruction whatsoever. They'll teach them anything. They just make broadband internet access available and give them access to a computer. And when they work in groups, kids in Nowheresville, India started learning how to speak English. There was another group of kids in South Africa that taught themselves about DNA sequencing. No teacher, no curriculum, just access to knowledge. And the learning happened intrinsically. It happens without somebody testing it. When they needed to learn how to look something up, they taught themselves the skill as it was appropriate to the knowledge they were seeking to acquire. That's how we can get there. I think when it becomes learning becomes deep and meaningful, students discover what interests them. They discover what's meaningful to them, and all the rest falls into place. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to test it anymore. And then I think we need to teach kids how to love to learn. Somebody taught me how to love to learn. And I like to teach kids how to love to learn because it's a great feeling, and I appreciated Francine's giving me a little credit for that. That's great. But, we all need that feeling, and we don't do it by spoon-feeding children curriculum. We do it by showing kids how fun it is to learn new stuff, and then everything falls into place. Thank you.